He took the pill, then sat in silence. Minutes passed, and then the walls began to breathe. The colors shifted, and suddenly he was floating in a universe of memory and emotion. In this altered reality, pain melted, trauma softened, and time lost its grip. Across labs and clinics, scientists are rediscovering what ancient shamans knew, that chemicals can crack open consciousness. From microdoses easing depression to full-blown psychedelic journeys rewiring PTSD, the brain under the influence is no longer just escaping. It is healing, exploring, and transforming. But these mental portals come with risks, and not every trip returns you home.
Welcome to Extreme Brains, the podcast that embraces the chaos of a world gone wild. I'm David Evanoff, along with my fellow brainers and chaos enthusiasts, Sam Goldstein and James Woods. We are broadcasting to you from the semi-luxurious Evanoff Studios, located on the west side of the over-industrialized haven of South Salt Lake City, Utah. South Salt Lake City, Utah, the only place you can be south and west at the same time. Each week we'll dive headfirst into the absurdities of modern life, sharing sharp critiques, unfiltered humor, and just the right amount of existential dread. Our tagline, 3 voices, 1 mic, in a world gone wild. Here we are, brainers. Your brain in an altered state. This one I'm really excited about. Tell me more.
Well, my brain's always in an altered state, right? What's the definition of an altered state? I mean,
what altered state are we speaking of today?
Is it, I'm happy, I'm sad? Is that an altered state? Is it some substance that makes my brain filter the world differently? Is an altered state what happens to a child born deaf when they're given a cochlear implant and they can suddenly hear? Is an altered state someone who cannot see because they're so visually impaired, and you suddenly fit them with glasses? They live in some third world country, and all of a sudden they can see. Is that an altered state? And I don't know. And imagine if we evolved differently, and we had altered states based on the seasons. So in order to survive, you'd have to like being cold and like being hot, and so as the seasons changed, your mind changed, and is an altered state people with multiple personalities, right? There's the University of Utah is famous for the study of alternate personalities, multiple personalities. But a couple of famous ones, Sybil, for which there was a book about these people who had multiple personalities. So how does that work? If the brain was a computer, you would just kind of switch hard drives. Just work off of this hard drive today, work off of that hard drive. It's the same software, but it's going to be filtered through a different hard drive that will interpret the software differently. And that's a lot of debate, because multiple personality is a popular defense for serial killers, right? I didn't do it. Joe did it. Well, who's Joe? He's my other personality that I see. And where's Joe? And hey, Joe, come on out. Yeah, I killed him. I did it. Screw you. Oh, get back in your box, Joe. How much awareness do you have if you can turn the personalities on and off? You can turn the altered state on and off. Now what is that? Well, that's not multiple personality. The whole idea of multiple personality is you can't turn it off. Now, if you're in a terribly stressful environment where you're abused or locked up and mistreated and you're a prisoner of war for long periods of time or whatever, do you disassociate, meaning check out, and create an alternate persona to cope with the adversity, so that it doesn't harm the person you are, it harms this other persona who then, when the adversity is over, you can discard like an old sock.
Wow.
Just get rid of it, right? So there's our introduction to altered states. And again, the question is, why do we even think about altered states? And you can think of a lot of reasons, like if you're in a lot of pain, an altered state might help you cope with the pain, or a lot of stress, or, most of us have altered states when we're dealing with our wives, right? We have an altered state.
No comment?
No comment there.
Safety first.
But what is it? And then the next question is, why do we gravitate towards it? What is it about the altered state that
Is appealing.
that is appealing, right? I find myself, I'll quiz the two of you, but I find myself as I'm getting older not liking altered states. Not out of fear of, if I drink too much, I'm melting brain cells, or if I smoke some pot, I'm going to cause a shortening of my life or something, but I don't like the way I feel anymore in an altered state. What's that all about?
Personally, I don't like to feel out of control with anything.
Yeah.
Not that I'm very much in control of my regular state, but I just feel it doesn't help. It doesn't help me to do that.
And where do you draw the line, Dave? When a heavy metal band comes in and you have to record and engineer them, versus a soft rock band versus opera, do you have to enter an altered state
Just to get through the session?
to get through the session, but also to appreciate what they're trying to do, right? You have to think differently about this music, even if you're not a fan of it.
Right.
And so our altered states by degree. And I think here we're really talking about a completely altered state, right? You take a tab of LSD and you're still you, but you're clearly filtering the world in a different way.
Well, and we've been, as humans, it goes way, 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 way back, doesn't it? Coffee, the coffee bean.
But that doesn't really make an altered state as much as peyote,
Certainly.
right?
But
Or
I was trying to guess what might have been first. Some caveman eat a coffee bean and feel slightly different
You got amped up a little.
than
Right.
peyote and marijuana. Blah, blah, blah.
But wouldn't you think that that if it didn't enhance survival, you couldn't be a relative of ours 50,000 years ago and get high, because it would, let's say, get high on pot, because you'd immediately be hungry and you'd go looking for food in the middle of the night and get eaten by some predatory animal, right? Or you would disconnect time a bit, or you would disconnect safety. Well, this cliff's not that high. I can negotiate it. So it wouldn't seem like altered states could enhance survival. Maybe, but unless you two have a reason for suggesting that altered states can enhance survival, we can discount it, right?
That's interesting. Beer and wine, been with us thousands of years.
Right?
But was that post the need for survival?
Well, I would argue we engaged in it not at a time
When we
needed to survive.
However, beer kept us alive because our water was so terrible that would kill us. So beer kept people alive on boats. It kept them alive in the Old West when we couldn't get clean water.
Right. So there's an evolutionary advantage. If you liked beer, you were more likely to survive on Christopher Columbus's Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria than the guy who said, no, I'm going to drink this water.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe there's an affinity for it, although the rule of thumb is that the first time you taste anything alcoholic, you don't like it.
You don't like it, yeah.
I don't know anybody that tasted it and went, "Oh, this is great. Where's this been all my?" No, everybody goes, "I don't like it," until you get a little buzz from it, and you say, "Well, so the price I have to pay for drinking it is I kind of do what?" But again, I don't think it enhances survival. it was used by ancient cultures, maybe, so the priest or the shaman or the medicine man would consume some substance that altered their state. We should talk about what's actually being altered in the brain, but altered their state. And then they came back and told everybody, well, this is what's going to happen. I saw the future and whatever. But a good con man can fake that without ever having to be inebriated, which I would argue would decrease the effectiveness or efficiency with which you could manipulate and control other people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The drunk in the bar isn't very good at getting everybody to join in.
He thinks he is.
He thinks he is, right. He thinks he is.
Yeah.
You kind of create this image of, I'm a legend in my own mind. This girl's going to like me, but you're not. You don't really, right? So I think in terms of survival, other than your beer example, altered states don't enhance survival. Okay, so now the next step is, what do they do? Well, the idea is have a good time. Or, as you see in film, or in this current Landman series, as soon as there's any stress, take a drink. Right? Think about all the series on TVs in which when there's a problem or when there's stress, everybody takes a drink.
Yep.
So the idea is that somehow the liquor leads to an alternate state of mind, because it's alternate state, we leave out the rest of it, alternate state of mind, right? We don't say alternate state of brain, we say of mind, so we're talking about the mind, not the physical brain, which we've discussed before, but the physical brain is what gets drunk or inebriated or high or whatever, and somehow then the mind has to deal with the alternate functioning of the physical brain, and the mind goes, well, what the hell is going on? What is this? Right? Because if you anthropomorphize, that's a big word. But if you take the brain and say there's a physical brain and then there's a mind brain, it's the physical that has the altered state, but it's the mind that has to cope with it.
It's got to deal.
That has got to deal with it, right? Right. So now we say, okay, so it's not for survival, because when we need to survive, the mind has to follow what the physical brain says. When the physical brain says, and we were just talking before the show about cause and effect, that the human brain, because we survived. If you heard a rustling sound in the savannah, and you thought could be a lion, and you ran, you lived.
Yeah.
And if you thought, very low probability that it's a lion, and it was a lion, you died. Right? So the physical brain kind of kept us alive, and the mind said, yeah, if you think there's danger, we're going to go along with it. We're not going to debate it, right? But here, it's an altered state that's different from anything the mind has ever encountered. So think back to the first time you got high. Although I don't know, David, whether you
I've done it.
were in that. Okay, but the first time,
I've been there.
And the first time with pot, it was laughter and fun and laughing at things that this is not really funny, but I'm laughing, right? And this is great. Oh, these chips have this wonderful taste. I've never tasted chips like this before, and the mind is going, wait a minute, this is not real. But if the mind said to the physical brain, I understand you're in an altered state, but I refuse to participate, we'd have a problem. So the mind has to go along to get along. So the mind says, yeah, this tastes better. Oh, it's great to get high because things taste better. You laugh more. You have a good time. Sex is better. Whatever the altered state is, the mind decides it's better, because it isn't the physical brain that says, oh, it's better after 2 drinks, or oh, it's better after a joint, or no. And the really altered state, the really altered reality, the extreme, not the mild or psilocybin or the peyote, but really more powerful LSD, mind-altering kinds of things. That's a whole other, I think that's a whole other deal here, because most people don't
Don't go there.
Don't go there.
Yeah.
And I think when you go there, the mind just checks out and just says, hey, I'm out of here. None of this makes any sense to me.
I'm
so
not gonna
have a good
compete
time.
here.
See you in 12 hours.
Yeah, I'll see you. Yeah, have a good time, and I'll see you in a while.
Enjoy
and,
your backache.
And that's that, and that's what we're going to do. But for the more routine, the consumption of alcohol or marijuana, I mean, I think, or stimulants for that matter, not so much downers. There was a period of time in my youth, I was never into that, but where everybody was into Quaaludes, and I couldn't understand why, because it just made them stupid. They would drool, and I was thinking, so how is this fun? Where is the fun? And yeah. So maybe the altered state, if not for safety, is to check out of one's life for a while.
Yeah. Take that little vacation.
Take a little vacation. And that's the idea of somebody died that you really loved. Here, have a drink. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Mm-hmm. Will it be easier for me to cope with the loss? No, it's probably going to be harder. Right. After 3 drinks, thinking about my best friend who just died, I'm not going to be happier about that. It's going to be harder. So what does the liquor do for me in that circumstance? And I think it's almost a knee-jerk reaction. It dulls your senses a little bit, right? But if you're having a good time. Right. But somehow the media has portrayed it as something you go to when you're not having it, when there's adversity. And I don't see Billy Bob Thornton pulling out a joint and saying, hey, let's all smoke a joint because the oil well exploded. No, it's here. Let's have a bourbon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting, the altered state that liquor supposedly provides to us.
That was growing up. I mean, you saw it. The one I always think of is Bewitched. Darren Stevens came home from a hard day at the ad agency, and a martini was waiting for him. And then when the clients came over or they had a dinner, they all drank many, 3, 4 cocktails.
Right, to have a good time. I remember the first time I toured Japan was a book tour, and I was speaking, and they took me out to dinner a number of times, this group of physicians in different cities, right? But it was always the same routine. It started with beer, and then it was wine, and then it was sake.
Yeah,
I mean,
shots.
All the same liquor, and there it was. We're having a good time, right? But it's an interesting ritual in our society, in our world, that just evolves, and then you wonder, well, how much is culture, media, advertising? How much of that really is behind that, and what's the trade-off for our species? Because these things that alter our physical brain and affect our mind tend to have long-term adverse repercussions if you abuse them.
And not everybody accepts it the same. Some people on alcohol. There's some people that are fine on alcohol. And then there's other people that you don't want to even be around.
And there are kind of stages where you have a drink and it's just a drink. It doesn't really alter you. But then you have a second and you get a little bit of a buzz, and I don't mind having 2 shots of tequila when I'm cooking, because I'm moving and I'm shaking and I'm cooking. But 3, I would go, I'm going to go sit on the couch.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a window of altered state that maybe adds to what? But again, it adds to pleasure.
So is that your brain stepping in to help you at that moment and say, hey, 2's good?
Yeah. That's your self-discipline that we've talked about, that leave your self-discipline home and see what life is like. You'll be good for 48 hours, and then, like they say, what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. No, not really. It follows you wherever you go. It's going to follow you home. That's an interesting piece of advertising that is absolutely untrue. But again, it's the mind that then says, I feel a little looser now, and these 2 drinks is great. It's enough, and I'm having a good time, and I'm laughing, and I'm right? So you have to have that self-discipline even when you're inebriated, which is the mind, the kind of Freud's idea of your superego saying, wait, slow down a little bit. Let's, as opposed to just completely losing control. And again, as a species, we're not good at self-discipline. We're just not. Because the way we evolved, if there was food, you better eat it, because there may not be any more food for a while. So we have problems with obesity when there's a lot of food available. And that same rule of thumb is, if there's alcohol, you better drink it. If there's pot, you better smoke it. Just the way our species is. So where are we? So we've agreed the mind has to find a way to cope with the physical brain when the physical brain enters some kind of an alternate state. And it's that alternate state does not really enhance survival. So it doesn't, as in Jekyll and Hyde, the alternate state doesn't make you a monster so you can kill everybody and survive. The alternate state increases the likelihood a cop's going to pull you over and you're going to go to jail. Right. So that's the first part.
It doesn't mask your problems. I mean, it does, I guess. Maybe mask your problems.
But that's the idea.
But they don't go away.
But they don't go away. And the idea is that you don't think about your problems, right? So it's a distraction, right? Maybe, but as I said a few minutes ago, if something really adverse happens, I'm not sure a couple of drinks is going to distract you, but it's going to make you
think about it more,
right? So we have this window in which alternate states seem to find their reason for being, or their raison d'etre, French.
Well said.
Oh, yeah, French.
Oui.
Yeah, I took a little French. And in entertainment or mental health. So when we come back, let's talk a little bit about what happens to the brain when you drink, when you consume THC, when you take LSD, what systems chemically are affected, and this dichotomy of altered mental states for entertainment versus altered mental states for health or treatment.
We should have brought props.
Right? Because again, 100 years ago, the research on stimulants, not enough to get high, but was that everyone should take it every day because you're less tired, you're more focused, you're not smarter, and that research was done with kids as well. And the teachers said these kids should take this dextroamphetamine every day because they sit still better and they pay attention better, and right? So it's altered states for both entertainment and to maybe enhance our emotional and cognitive well-being. And should we wait until someone's ill to offer them that altered state, or should we all seek altered states because it's a better way to live our lives? And I don't know. We'll see.
All right, let's take a little break. Brainers, here is some music from the band Sigmund Freud.
Frank Sinatra in the audience, old blue eyes. Give him a round of applause and let's get him up on the stage.
There you go. That's Sunny Days from the band Sigmund Freud. I just happened to be listening to this album, and you should too. It's available on all of your outlets, Apple, Spotify, and all the others. YouTube Music. Enjoy the newest album from the band Sigmund Freud. Okay. That band, Sigmund Freud, gave me an altered state. It was a very happy one.
Again, as we discussed, altered states could come from fasting. Altered states could come from lack of sleep. When I was a graduate student, I worked for a professor, and he had this study where we kept people awake. And it's amazing. After you're awake 24 or 30 hours, you start seeing things that aren't there. You do, we had a show about sleep a while ago, one of the episodes, so we've been through that. But again, we've kind of focused on altered states as the result of consuming something, but it could be the result of sensory deprivation. I put you in a sensory deprivation pod, and you can't hear, you don't see, you don't smell, and you go a little crazy, right?
That was a John Hurt movie in the 80s.
Right, that's right.
He turned into a monkey.
Right. And so, is an altered state a trick of perception? The physical brain is different and the mind thinks, oh, that's something different. Or is it, the Timothy Leary idea of that there's a higher plane for human beings to be on, and the path to get there requires some substance that is not naturally made by your body and some substance that you ingest. I will say that substances that we ingest that mimic things our body makes tend to be helpful, like pain relievers or endorphins.
I was just going to say what?
Yeah, they tend to be helpful, but and those that don't. So if you think, well, there's no natural production of LSD in the brain, so would it be helpful? Now they're saying, very tiny doses. They call it microdosing, whatever that means, of things like psilocybin could be helpful for people with, mental health conditions. Now, why would that be? Well, because the kinds of mental health conditions we're talking about, not autism, not personality disorder, not learning disability, those have to do more with the structure of the brain, which we've talked about, but conditions that have to do with the chemistry of the brain.
PTSD.
Well, yeah, anxiety, anything anxiety, which is PTSD, or depression, or ADHD, or bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia, any of the conditions in which if you change the chemistry of the brain, you change the experience of that condition, either making it better or worse, right? So we've talked before in the brain about the default mode network in the brain that kind of distributes neurotransmitters. Well, when you take in a psychedelic like LSD, it quiets that, right? So it works less. LSD affects serotonin as well. It affects a crosstalk between different sensory parts of the brain. So a chemical is changing the chemistry of your brain. So SSRIs, used for depression or anxiety, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, force more serotonin into the brain. That's an overly simplistic explanation.
It's not a permanent change, right?
No, it's not.
You have to continue taking.
Right, you have to continue to do it. But what they're saying with ketamine, which has now become so popular, so it used to be you'd have to have infusions of it, through an IV. And
now there's inhalers, right?
Now there's inhalers and there's pills and who knows. I mean, the ingenuity of the American marketplace is surpassed only by the gullibility of people's willingness to believe what they're telling them.
Right.
You can quote me on that, right? So it wouldn't be surprising if these substances, whether it's THC, whether it's psilocybin, whether it's alcohol, they all end up, they come into the body, they get absorbed into the bloodstream, the liver goes, "What are you doing?" and tries to clear it but can't clear it fast enough, and it gets to the brain. And the blood-brain barrier that's supposed to keep certain things out of the brain, which is why if you say, well, ADHD is caused by not enough dopamine, so I'm going to take this building block that's used to make dopamine in the brain, and I'm going to take a lot of it. Well, that's great, but the blood-brain barrier doesn't let it in. So it's not going to get made. Now, dopamine is made in other parts of the body too, but it's not going to work, right? So you take these substances, and they affect the homeostasis, whatever that is, the balance of the chemistry in your brain. And if you're depressed, that balance is off, and the serotonin reuptake inhibitor pushes more serotonin into the trillions of synapses, and you cope a little better. Does it change the mind? No. So you say, well, I'm not as depressed. Oh, that's good. Are you back to work? No. Are you leaving the house? No. I'm just not as depressed. And then you need somebody, which is why the antidepressants alone for somebody who's really depressed is not enough, because you need then somebody to say, get your ass to work. Get up out of bed. You got to break these habits that you've developed when you were depressed. So these chemicals alter the mind. And they do so because they alter the homeostasis, serotonin or dopamine or the default network or other neurotransmitters. And in doing so, the physical mind works differently, or the physical brain works differently, and the mind has to interpret that or deal with that. One of the things about things like psilocybin or LSD is it creates this connection between your senses, right? And you can see, you can feel colors, or you can see sounds, or you can all this stuff that maybe if you're profoundly depressed or schizophrenic, maybe is good for you. Maybe it kind of shakes you up a little bit. And the extreme of, what would you say would be the extreme cause of an alternate mind or an alternate physical brain?
Well, just those horror stories that we were told as kids that,
Well, what caused it?
You took the LDS.
Okay,
LSD,
you took a substance.
LDS.
You took the LDS religion and you were into. Well, we have friends who would agree with that, right? They would absolutely agree.
Also could go that way.
Yeah, but no. And you have a guess?
No. I
Okay. Electroconvulsive therapy.
There you go.
ECT, right? So think about this. They're dealing with people who are so chronically depressed that if you don't watch them all the time, they'll kill themselves. People who are at the state hospital who've tried to kill themselves dozens of times, for whom the medicines don't seem to change the chemistry of the brain, and they're right. And so can you imagine? We're sitting around at a team meeting discussing James' refractory response to all of our depressive treatments. We've tried all the medicines. We've tried everything. And he's just sitting there saying, if you untie me, I'm going to kill myself. And I say, Dave, the brain is built on electricity. And we've been trying to change James' chemistry. Maybe we should try and change his electricity. And you go, well, how are we going to do that? Can we put his hands in an electrical socket?
I got a car battery here.
Yeah, no, I think, no, but that's going to run through his body. That's not going to help. Yeah. Remember Dr. Frankenstein?
Right.
Maybe if we send a jolt of electricity into his brain, it'll scramble everything, and he won't be as depressed. He'll be scrambled, but he won't be as depressed, which would be a better state for him. And they decide to try it, which is they basically induce a seizure, right?
Right.
And they do it a series of times. And lo and behold, for some people, and maybe that isn't the most altered state. Maybe the most altered state is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah. Let me drill a hole in the front of your brain
the
and
lobotomy,
stick a rod in there
yeah.
and smush it around. Mm-hmm. That would be the worst, right? But so Dave says, all right, let's do it. How much electricity? I don't know.
Who knows?
We'll modulate. We'll start with a little bit and we'll work our way up. here, bite on this stick, James, and strap him down so that he doesn't jump off the table when we send this electricity. And let's send it in one side of his head, and we'll give it a place to come out the other side. Because if we don't, if you know how electricity works,
Right.
it's going to go to the path of least resistance. So we'll put it in one side and let it come out the other side. We'll hook him up, and we do it. And you're still laying there, and we say, for good measure, let's do it 3 times, not just once each time.
And let's turn it up a little.
Let's turn it up a little, and then we wait for you to wake up, and you wake up, and I say, well, James, are you? How are you feeling? And you go,
Who are you?
Who am I? Who am I? Because it
you?
scrambles your memory too. I mean, because it's like spraying anti-fire foam on an entire city. When there's a fire in one house, okay, and you wake up and you say, I think I'm feeling a little bit better, and we wait a few days, and you go right back to the way you were. So we say, he needs another round of this shit, and we give him another round. I'm feeling better, and then we decide, well, maybe you need, 6 of these treatments spread out over a period of time, which is how they start out doing the ketamine, and lo and behold. Yes, you are less depressed, and you're not going to kill yourself.
And you don't grow facial hair anymore.
But you're not functional. You're not. Show me one person who's been through this kind of ECT that is actually functional after that goes on to have a normal life. And no, but it's the trade-off of not having a life at all, right? So there's the altered state. The electricity, I think, scrambles not just neurotransmitter transmission, like dopamine is made in the back of the brain in the substantia nigra, and there are paths that send dopamine throughout the brain. It scrambles the roads, it scrambles the production, it scrambles the physical makeup of cells. Who knows what else? It scrambles the proteins that are on the outside of these 80 billion cells. I mean, it scrambles everything, but you're not depressed. So we say, well, okay, that worked. But we don't really know what really was it within it that worked. It's like my friend who since passed away, Bill Crook, who was a pediatrician, who years ago believed that ADD or ADHD was caused by, he was a big fan of the brain-gut hypothesis, and there are still people that push this kind of nonsense because it isn't, as far as I'm concerned, there's a little science, but it's mostly nonsense. And his theory was that ADHD was caused by you had a yeast infection in your gut, and the yeast infection made all kinds of bad things, and it migrated up to your brain. And your biome. And his treatment was nystatin to kill the yeast infection, Ritalin, psychotherapy, school intervention, parent training, and he said, see, my program works.
Look, we've cured him.
But did we ever figure out what is it in your program that's working? Is it really the nystatin doing anything? Right. Or is it really the other things that are doing that? So we've gone a bit astray here. The chemicals that we ingest, whether it's alcohol or a THC or psilocybin or whatever, because we're talking about chemicals or electricity, but not necessarily fasting or sensory deprivation or meditation, right? So
I was just going to say meditation.
In meditation, there's this whole big thing. You want to see God. These priests meditate, and they measure changes in their brainwave activity when they're meditating, and it's all interesting stuff, but I don't know that it has any relevance in our everyday lives. Does it? I don't know. But the brain, I think, so you start smoking pot, you start drinking alcohol, and the physical brain begins to change a little bit. And the mind goes, okay, what's going on here? And the mind has to make sense of it all. So that first time you got 3 beers, the mind said, this is making me sick, I'm not going to do it anymore. Right? But maybe after you did it a few times, this doesn't taste good. But after you did it a few times, maybe then you'd say, it doesn't taste good, but I like the way it makes me feel. Right? And then, then there's this this Timothy Leary philosophical debate is, is there a higher plane? are we beings
And
from
the only
the
way
fifth
to reach it
dimension?
is, yeah.
And the only way to get there is this other stuff. And I think it comes back to everything we've talked about before, that the prime directive for our species is that belief is our most valuable ally. And we believe anything. Alternate realities. And the unfortunate thing is, I think that it is, what's the right word? Not just romantic, but it is calming, or it is nice or safe, or I'm not finding the right word, to assume we'll see our family in another life. Right? Look at what the mind has created. That's what Extreme Brains is about.
Right.
Look at what the mind has created.
A safe place. Yeah.
Because we can think.
The ultimate payoff.
Right.
For
Which again
world,
comes
for
back
our
when we
life.
Existence.
when we start the next episode. Would we be better off if we had the brains of dogs? Because it's the same. But look at what we've created, and what are we afraid about? Right? We're afraid about dying, and therefore we're afraid about getting old. And my article on Substack yesterday was, it suddenly dawned on me in one of my hot tub experiences, because I sit in the hot tub every day.
Altered
but I'm not,
state.
I'm not inebriated. I'm just sitting in the hot tub. That, yeah, you can fear getting old, but if you're old, it means you've lived all that time. So there's not everybody gets to live. Think about people we know who died young.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And we're still here experiencing our lives, and we say, well, I don't want to get old and I don't want to die, but in order to have that life experience, you have to get old.
You got to do it.
Right? And I don't want to, the looking old, I think, is more a function of just kind of the culture, right?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't you think? I think that's more cultural, but and I don't know that I want to look young. I just want to look nice.
right.
I don't want people to look
right.
at me and go, "Well, he's
Ew.
he's
He's falling apart.
What is that? Ridden hard and put out to dry? You know, I
Weather.
Wet.
Here he
right,
looks
but I
weathered.
don't know that it's not that I want to look younger. I just want to look nice, right? And but it doesn't sell as well because we don't say here's some nice cream. We say here's some anti-aging cream,
Yes.
as if aging is a not a good thing.
Well, that brings us back to your original marketing notion. We're told that if you have that cocktail, you'll either look better or people will perceive you to look better.
Well, but if you right,
Yeah.
that's right, that's right, because you think you're better, so it softens your ability to measure.
drink that cocktail.
measure reality, right?
Yeah.
Right. And again,
And others look better to you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Until
Beer goggles,
until
right?
morning.
Yeah, what's that country song? It's the last girl at the last call.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then everybody looks good. But psychedelics went over a period of maybe 60 years, 50 years from being counterculture tools for freedom and rebellion. Now we say, oh, maybe they're therapeutic. And my personal belief is eventually we're going to figure out, nah, they're not therapeutic either.
I was going to
I
ask
was
you.
just going to ask the
yeah.
same.
I think we're going to
Is it just the flavor of the month?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Trendy.
You know, I think, but again, there's psilocybin for depression, but keep in mind there's also lobotomy. There's also ECT. There's right. Maybe psilocybin's less intrusive. There's MDMA. Right? Wasn't that the MDMA was the rave drug? Wasn't that I was a little older, so I missed sort of the rave. Thank
But
goodness.
became a part of couples therapy.
But it became, wasn't MDA you'd have it on lollipops, and so you
Yeah,
could dance all
Molly,
night
right?
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could dance all night long, and ketamine, which is again a fascinating thing. Is it really? I think what happens is there's a couple of studies done, and not everything has to be double-blind, placebo-proven. And here on Extreme Brains, we try and separate science from non-science, from just plain nonsense. And sometimes common sense dictates to that interpretation. But a couple of studies come out, and you say, oh, look, maybe this is going to help me, and maybe it'll help this, maybe it'll help that, and before you know it, to create market share, it'll help everything.
Right.
It doesn't matter what ails you. There's the fruits and vegetables that are powderized, and there's one that's very popular advertised on TV.
AG1.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of them, right? But the way they advertise this one company on TV is they have an athlete, a cowboy, a singer, and the idea is that it doesn't matter what you do, this will make it better.
Everything better.
Like things go better with Coke. Was that the commercial?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, things go better. And I always said, yep, things go better with cocaine. It really does. And no, it's Coca-Cola. Things go better with Coca-Cola. So now where are we? Well, we know these things change the chemistry of the physical brain. When the chemistry of the physical brain changes, it changes how the brain interfaces with the world, and then the mind has to figure it out.
Would you, if I came to you for advice, I have probably 6-7 friends right now using ketamine treatment for depression.
Yeah, it's good, but it'll fade out.
And so with that said, what would you advise me? I'm going to guess, tell me if I'm wrong, that you would say, nah, do the harder work and let's do some talk therapy or something other than chemical therapy.
So I'm not a fan of, shortcuts or crutches.
Yeah.
Right? If you need it, you need it. So I'm not going to say, well, do the hard work rather than swallow the pill. No, what I'm going to say is the benefits have to outweigh the liabilities. Do you know, and we could stop here for a break, placebo is a treatment.
Right.
And we may have talked about this before when we were talking about the mind and perception, but years ago, a drug company called Ciba-Geigy, they're now Novartis, they sold something called Ciba Caps, which was capsules, and there was nothing in them. I mean, they looked like there was something in them, and physicians could use them with their patients who they thought were really not ill, but thought they were ill, and needed to swallow something in order to think they're better, because placebo works 30 to 40% of the time, especially over short periods, right? And of course, I guess we should maybe next season do a show on your mind and government, because the government got in the way and said, oh, you can't fool people. If there's nothing... If this is an inert pill, you have to tell them it's an inert pill. Well, if I tell you it's an inert pill...
Then it's not placebo.
It's not placebo. It's not going to work, right? So, and a lot of the things that do work are just placebo, right? So maybe when we come back...
30 to 40% is pretty large.
It's a large...
Yes.
Yeah, it's a large... And I'll leave you with this. And I think when we come back, we can talk about altered states, both for entertainment or for, what do we think the future is going to hold. But when Prozac was approved, the FDA did not require, it was the first SSRI, and the FDA did not require that you submit every study you did. Drug companies could pick and choose and only submit the studies for which there was a positive finding.
Wow.
Right.
And then that changed. And now they can't do that. You have to submit all the studies, right? But Prozac, when it was approved, worked only slightly better than placebo.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
To
yeah.
this, and I guess.
Oh, yeah. And so if Prozac works 60% of the time and placebo works 50% of the time, and you've got side effects or other issues, is that 10% worth the trade-off? And we're always chasing our tails. There's always going to be the next thing we have to think about. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? Right.
Okay. Let's take another little break. Listen to some music from the band Sigmund Freud.
Shadows fall and hope seems thin. I'll be the Okay.
Welcome back. Thank you, band Sigmund Freud. I guess we can skip. Would a dog be better off? Would we be better off as an altered state dog? Or should we just leave the dogs out of it?
Dogs, I don't know what happens to dogs when they get high. You've seen that.
We've seen
that
it.
TikTok video of that raccoon who got into the liquor bottles, and the film shows him wandering around. And then
I've seen the movie Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear, that was frightening and
That
funny.
was frightening.
Yeah.
And entertaining.
Yeah. So I mean, and then of course there's the so let's dichotomize it. Let's say altered states because they help, not just have a drink because your dog died, but because you really have a problem, and we think an altered physical state would lead to an altered mental state, which would help you recover from depression, anxiety, whatever the problem might be. I mean, we can put that aside because I think until we really understand how to, quote, cure these problems as opposed to treat them or help people live with them, because a lot of what we do is helping people live with the challenges they have, not make them go away. Until we get to that point, there's going to be a flavor of the month or a flavor of the week. After ketamine, there'll be something else, and the trick is to be ahead of the game. Oh, lion's mane mushrooms. That's what it's going to be. Quick, corner the market on lion's mane mushrooms. And we'll see whether it's going to be any of those kinds of things. But I think that'll keep changing, and there's always a big disconnect between how research is done and then how what's learned from research is applied in clinical practice. And it's my favorite story of when I was way back when I was in the schools and I taught a teacher how to do a certain intervention with a kid, and we practiced it, and then she was supposed to do it. And then a week later I was at the school and she said, "It's not working." And I said, "Well, let me come into the classroom." And she was doing something completely different. It was like she had a different personality, and the first personality forgot what I taught her, and she was saying it doesn't work. And you know the applying the intervention with what's termed fidelity, right? Fidelity means doing it the way you're supposed to do it. And when you look at that, whether it's in mental health counseling, education, even you, David, teaching someone how to be an engineer, and you teach them, here's what you do, and then you come back a week later and they've found their own cockamamie way of doing it, and it's not working very well because they're not applying it with fidelity, which is a big issue. So simply proving something works in research, whatever it is, whether it's medicine, education, science, technology, doesn't matter. Getting it into the community and having it be applied in the way it was proven to work or designed is a whole other issue.
Are there any benefits to, say, ketamine therapy?
Yeah. Yeah, there probably are. But who's the best candidate? What's the best way of administration? And what's happened now is it's in drops, it's in pills, you take it home.
There's clinics everywhere.
Yeah, it wasn't how it was designed. Originally it was designed with infusions, and you took it for a while, and then you didn't do it for a while and see what happens. You know, and leave it to our society because there's a buck to be made.
Yeah, right.
So ketamine helped you, maybe it'll help him. But, oh, God, people don't want to come in and have it, you know, done through infusion.
Spend the afternoon.
Yeah, they
in
want
the
to get it a
clinic.
different way. So let's see if we can put it in a pill. Let's see. Look at the weight loss stuff. The row.
It's in a pill now.
Now it's in a pill. Well, it's in a liquid supposedly now too, and and that's what, to get more people to use it.
Yep.
Right.
If you say I have X and it helps Y, there's going to be a limited group of people who. But if you say I have X and it helps A to Z, and that's what happens. So does ketamine help? Probably some things. Is it the panacea to cure refractory depression like it's being marketed at now? No.
And does it only help when it's being administered or when you're on it and then you go back to what you were?
Who knows? And the other thing is how much of it, in terms of its help, is based on your mind.
Right.
Right? And so what we know, why do we price things like 1995? Where does that research come from? And there's all this research to show that when people look at something, the way they think about it is influenced by how they interpret 1995. That's a pretty good price. $21, that's too much money.
Right.
It's and that's how all this comes about. If I pay you an inordinately large amount of money to do a mundane task, you'll do the task and you'll say, this is boring and mundane, but I'm getting a lot of money. If I pay you a little bit of money to do that task, you'll say, I'm not doing it for the money.
Worth it, right?
You'll say, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I like it. If you do it, you have to find your attribution elsewhere. Right. So the attribution has to come from inside. So again, if I believe that smoking a joint eases my pain, calms my anxiety, because look at medical marijuana is legal in Utah. Right. And all the patients I see that are taking it are either taking it for pain or anxiety. And does it really help them? Not a lot of studies that say it really helps, but they say it does. And what percentage of it is, well, I got high, so I'm not thinking about it, or what percentage of it is, does it really help, or what percentage of it is, here's the placebo, and I believe it works. One of my favorite studies of all time was a study in which everybody except one person is part of the study, meaning one person is who they're studying, everybody else is in on the joke, right?
Right.
And they say to them, we have a new drug that helps people sleep. And everybody takes it. But the one person who's the real person in the study who's taking it, they give him a stimulant. And within 20 minutes, everybody else starts to yawn and lays down and go to sleep. And what does this person do who's just had a dose of a stimulant? Lays down and goes to sleep.
Interesting.
Right. So the mind is more powerful in regulating the physical brain to a point. I mean, if the physical brain is so inebriated you can't stand up, it doesn't help any. But to a point, it makes a difference. What about the studies in which they show men pictures of attractive women? And they're sitting in front of 3 dials, and they're wired up, and one dial supposedly is their heart rate, one their breathing, one their electrical activity in their skin, but they're really not. The researcher is controlling the dials, and on certain women, he turns the dials up. Then they go back and they lay the pictures out, and they say, well, which one did you find most attractive? And the mind goes, well, the one where the dials went up, except that I was controlling the dials. It wasn't... Right.
Interesting.
This is the problem with our mind, is that we're gullible, and we're easily influenced by belief, and we're easily distracted but it's the way it is. So how much of these substances really do what they say they do? I don't know. But after a couple of drinks, you think you're more good looking. You think life is better. You think,
but only while you're having those few drinks.
Correct. And so do these substances distort reality? Yeah. Do they hide the truth? Yeah. If I say I'm happier because I smoke a joint every day, if it's an illusion, does it matter? If it's an illusion, it's not hurting me. Does it matter? Is illusion and insight inseparable from the mind saying I'm better? Nobody knows. And are these altered states, mostly they're entertaining, right? Because alcohol's never been used in the media, in television. It's used as an intervention for, come on over here, you all need to have a drink because this is really bad. No, but that's how it's perceived. But in the real world, nobody sees alcohol as a treatment for anything, which I find fascinating, because we made THC a treatment, we've made psilocybin a treatment, we've made LSD a treatment, ketamine's a treatment, we've made MDNA a treatment. Right, and I'm waiting for somebody to come along and say, alcohol in microdoses can make you happier. Now, we do say, have a glass of wine a day, and it's supposedly you're healthier. So we've tried to popularize it among the media, but not really among those who are suffering. We haven't said, if you're depressed, have a glass of wine with every meal and you'll be happier. We haven't said that yet. I don't know why not. Maybe we should start the Sam, Dave, and James Alcohol Disorders Clinic. And what we do in our clinic is we give you alcohol. We're not trying to get you to stop. We're trying to get you to roll alcohol.
It's going to be a mess, I tell you.
Into your life.
The ones I know,
Right.
we're in trouble.
Right. And the other phenomena is that across different cultures and societies, the escape from reality is kind of part of the human condition, right? Everybody wants to escape from reality, and again, how much does the media influence that? What we see. So remember the program Yellowstone, and the one son was trying to find himself, so he took peyote and sat under a tree until the wolf came. To see him, right? And what I find fascinating, Sheridan takes stuff from one show and he puts it in another show. So in Landman, out in the back of their house, there's a wolf, And the first time, I don't know if you remember, the first time the wolf appears, the neighbor shoots it. That varmint, right?
Yeah.
And the second time the wolf appears, Billy Bob says, "Oh, not today, buddy.
Yeah.
Not today. Maybe you need to be thinking about getting out of here, but not today. You're not going to rain on my parade today," right? Pretty interesting. I think it's we should do a whole show on Sheridan and the underlying themes of his shows. Because I think if you take all of his programs, it's the same formula, different history, different time in history, different activity, landman versus rancher. But they're all the same. I mean, he has an interesting formula for how he, creates, how he goes about doing it. And I just started watching the third season of Tulsa Kings.
Oh.
Have you watched Tulsa King?
I've never seen that yet.
Oh.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you should watch it.
Really?
I mean, Stallone is such a cookie cutter character as a mobster.
Right.
But you watch the first couple of episodes, and then you eventually
I've heard that
you get into it, and it's pretty good. But again, the same archetype characters that he has in every show, he has in this show. But what he can do is that most others, I think, can't. And I don't know that he's on psilocybin or LSD or whatever. But what he can, he's got a big ego. But what he can do is find a way to make the show interesting by the third season. And most shows, by the third season, you throw your hands up in the air and go, "God, I can't watch this anymore." Unless it's the same, like Dallas or those older TV shows was the same. Or what about Days of Our Lives?
Sure.
That went on for 27 years.
50 years. Yeah.
Right. But
interesting that, you bring up a show and a series or two, because I use film and television as an altered state.
Oh, really?
That's how I shut off. My brain talks to me all the time. Think about this
Welcome
horn
to my
part.
world.
Yeah,
Same.
of course. I bow to your ability to quiet those voices.
To navigate that, yeah.
But that's what helps me, is if I can turn on something even dumb, it will quiet those voices. Maybe an altered state.
Right. And that, again, is that whole issue of what defines an altered state.
Yeah.
Right. And I would argue that every day, every hour is an altered state, built on a stable foundation. But all of us have altered states from, even since we've been in here this morning.
Sure.
I have an altered state. We worked on a wonderful new song, and I was in an altered state because I was, wow, look at it. This is great. Wait till everybody hears this. And then I moved out of that state, but I'm still me. And I think here the argument is that the threshold for an altered state is you're really not you anymore, right? You're filtering the world in a different way, and you're not you. So Mr. Spock could never be in an altered state.
Nope. Only that
Right.
one time.
Only
in that one episode.
Right.
Yeah.
But he really can't be in an altered state. And for Vulcans. And Klingons can't be in an altered state
no.
because they're always angry. right? So there's no altered state for them, right? Yeah. I always thought it would be a great Saturday Night Live skit if the Klingon was like the Vulcan and the Vulcan was like the Klingon, and they were trying to communicate with each other.
Gene should have written that.
Yeah, let's see.
That would have been a great episode.
And even then, when you look at those TV shows, there's altered states from being hit with a ray or something, or this, or
The classic, the plant.
Right.
That altered Mr. Spock. The
right.
plant blew the pollen on him, and he
He
could
became
experience
something
love
really,
for a little
yeah,
while.
really bizarre.
Yeah.
Really bizarre. So I guess the takeaway is the paths that our frontal lobes will go down are almost impossible for us to imagine or anticipate. And the efforts we will seek out to find those paths are unlimited. Right?
Yeah.
So, and again, unlimited in the sense of people who sniff gasoline to get high, or airplane. When I was a kid, it was the
Airplane glue.
airplane glue. It was like, really? It is melting your brain. And yet, right, or huffing gasoline. Or so the extent to which people will go, and again, it's, do they go to that extent because they're unhappy with who they are?
Yeah, I was going to ask,
Do
what
they
is
go
that?
to
Are
that
we
ex-
escaping? Are
Well,
we-
they go to that extent to escape, which we think altered states play a big role in. Do they go to that extent not to escape, but to recover from? Because you're not escaping from depression; you're trying to recover from it. Do you go to that altered state simply because it's entertaining? Do you go to that altered state because human beings have a quest to keep moving, keep going, keep searching? It's in our genes. I kind of leave you with this. There is a dopamine. So dopamine is a chemical in the brain, and when brain cells communicate mostly about behavioral things, dopamine plays a role. And for people who don't know, the brain operates on very low voltage electricity, and that dopamine cell is charged from one neuron, and it travels across the synapse, which is an open area, no man's land, where there's maybe 5,000 other neurons have some connection, and it travels across to another neuron who says, come on over here. And there's a docking, and it docks, and it sends that electrical signal over. And the dopamine, so there are 5 different dopamine docks, and each one has a slightly different variation. There's the DRD4, 10 repeat, so it's the 4th dock, but it's a certain kind of built dock that has 10 repeat cytidine, guanine, thymine, adenine, the 4 building blocks. We've just discussed that. There's only 4 building blocks in DNA, and the different combinations determine, like programming, determine different things. And that gene is associated with risk. And now, to find that risk, you have to study large populations. I can't just look at your gene and say, oh, you're going to do more risk. It's a tiny contribution that can only be seen by
Over
bigger
time.
samples. Because the smaller the impact, the larger the sample has to be before you can really measure that it's different. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because in 10 people, there's not enough variation. You're going to say, well, I don't see anything. But in 10,000, all of a sudden you realize that there's a group of people with this gene who, as a group, have engaged in more risky behavior. Okay? So that's the risk gene. It was discovered by studying the Paisas, which are a group of 10 Portuguese families who emigrated from Europe to Brazil 150 years ago or so. So it's the same group of people, and they had 100,000 people who were related to that first 10 families. And it's one of the things they found in this genetic work. Now, why do I tell you this at the end of our time today? So if you look at indigenous people way north, the Inuit, who migrated across the landmass from Asia, which is why they look kind of Asian, and then you look at every generation of tribal people heading south through Canada, through North America, through Central America, through South America, to the tip of South America. So you have groups of indigenous people, 30, 40 different tribes of people. That risk gene has greater prevalence or greater occurrence in the population as you move south. Almost perfectly.
Wow.
Almost perfectly. So the highest incidence of that gene or prevalence of that gene is in the southernmost tribes of people. And as you go north, it's less and less and less and less and less. So we have this quest for finding things, whatever it is. It's nice here. Why not stay here? No, let's go see what's over there. And that quest over time drives risk. And that risk over time probably has an evolutionary advantage in the big picture, but in the short run increases risky behavior in areas where we shouldn't be engaging in risky behavior, right? Yeah. So some of us are blessed with a genetic makeup that minimizes the chances that we're going to take those kind of risks. You know, I'm not getting in a rickety boat and heading across the ocean to North America. We're going to sink. I'll just stay here. It's not good here. Yeah, but it's going to be worse there. I'm not going. And it's the risk takers who drive it, which is why one of the theories is that this is a country, yes, of immigrants, but really it's a country of selected risk takers, which is why we start more businesses. Look at quality of life in the United States. Trump's not wrong. He just doesn't understand why. But you look at the quality of life in the United States, what we've created, what we've done, how we've done it, because all the risk takers got in the boats and came here.
Are the risk takers more apt to be altering their states?
Yeah.
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 So
that's right.
There you go.
Right. So with the good comes the adverse. So if you're listening and you're considering altering your reality this weekend, consider where you want to do it, how you want to do it, who you want to do it with, and when you want to do it. That requires you to put your risk-taking gene aside and say, yeah, we're going to do it here in this way, and then we're going to do this much of it. And
more controlled environment.
Right. In a safer way, if you're prone to risk. But no matter who you are, you're going to be prone to risk. You're going to be prone at some point to an altered state, whether that altered state is from drinking too much Coke or eating too much ice cream or or having a frontal lobotomy. We're all driven towards alternate states, and it's something when you learn to live with, you live with it. You don't become another person. You don't develop multiple personalities. You live with it, and in doing so, you probably live a better life. So, alternate
unless
states,
you're Rose Kennedy.
Right. But so the takeaway message is there's nothing wrong with it, and it's mostly for entertainment purposes. And if you expect it to change your life, good luck.
There you go. Thank you, Brainers. This has been a lot of fun. I hope you're all safe out there. Enjoy your risk-taking, but be safe. And we'll see you next time.
Just because we said it doesn't mean it's true. You're on your own.